better and better image quality in cinema, there will be a trend, a desire to improve that particular dimension. And we've spent an awful lot of time today on high dynamic range and high contrast ratio for good reason. It is the biggest bang for the buck for the creative community. It's nearly unanimous. It's true in TV, it's true in sports, it's true across a wide variety of content. Okay, so as a manufacturer we say, okay, do we all run and do high dynamic range and higher peak luminance? Then what happens? Okay, then you see everything that you couldn't see at lower peak luminance or lower contrast levels, meaning the good and the bad. And so the point of this is, if we're going to boost peak luminance and contrast level, we better be ready to boost frame rate as well, or you're going to see motion artifacts and judder and go, oh, you know, we fixed one thing and now we have a different problem.
So we have a couple of movies in production right now at 120 frame rates. The challenge is going to be how we're going to display them. So we haven't hit that mountain yet, but that's coming up quick. We also have
120 frame rate. Really? What are those movies?
Trumbull.
Oh, it's about Trumbull.
He's got some friends too.
He's got some friends who like what he does.
Tall screen at me.
So that's the flip side, Michael.
So
4K 120's coming.
So one of the other surprises that's going to come up, and I'm expecting to see a demonstration in Los Angeles at the end of the summer, is variable frame rate. And that's where, so we talk about the bandwidth's going to be too high at 120 frame rate. We're going to have files that will take a satellite 2 weeks to deliver. Then we need to be able to control the size of the files better. We'll have variable frame rate. Those scenes that have high action and have a higher
Oh, is that
frame
what
rate,
high action detection?
This is part of Doug's
Technicolor is doing.
Well.
But back to the standards, right? We need standards for these.
Well, the standards say that the DCP shall be 1 frame rate. So we have a lot of challenges coming up. There's probably, I think I had a slide of all the different things, all the things that need to change in our standards world in digital cinema. So digital cinema is now 10 years old, or older actually, from when we first started creating the standards for this. And we think of it as still as brand new. It's a very brand new $8 billion investment around the world, and we're already looking at, we've pushed it to the edges, and we're going over the edge, and we're going to be going over the edge in the next few years.
I'm going to speak from experience with HFR and the 3D side of things. This is my personal experience, not an NEC scenario, but some of you out there probably have the same feelings. When you're looking at things at 24 frames, I cannot possibly watch a 3D movie myself. I have to have it at least at 48, 60 hertz.
Right.
So I think moving forward, we have to create that scenario, because I'm not the only person out there that can't do that. I can't play video games, by the way. I would get motion sickness that fast. So 24 frame video for 3D movie for me, I can watch for 5 minutes and I'm done. I can't change it, so that's just my personal experience. But if that's for me, what is that for the rest of the world? So the 48 and 60 hertz, at least from a 3D standpoint, is absolutely needed. On a 2D standpoint, we know that we're going to see higher frame rates. So I think this is one of those factors that's going to come into play. So talking other things from a 3D standpoint that may have made that drop a little bit or not move forward is the fact that it wasn't, high frame rate everywhere. So that experience could have made a big difference for everybody. So just from my point of view.
So I know of a camera company that's producing variable frame rate test material that will be shown at the end of summer, and there'll be a media block that's actually playing. So this is challenging stuff that people are starting to take seriously and trying to implement. So I expect to see a lot of changes. But unfortunately, all of our standards and our current world of product doesn't allow this kind of stuff. So this is another generation of product. We haven't put a hard definition on what Generation 2 cinema is.
Actually, Ricky, could you bring up Michael's slide? He's got a couple of bullet points on that Generation 2.
So we're talking.
Nobody's saying AK here.
So I saw 8K 5. within HK.
Here's your study topics, Michael.
8K, yeah, that's a different topic. Getting a projector to show 8K is
Here's your generation two.
Here's a list of things that further evaluation needs to take place in order to understand how we're moving forward on next generation cinema. And we don't have all these measurements yet. So this list has been shared with DCI. They're all on board. We're trying to put together a how to get there sort of scenario. But this is an active discussion going on today in Hollywood to how are we taking the industry into a next generation, where we have to go, and what do we have to conduct to get there. We need, in order to do higher frame rates at 4K, at 3D, we need higher bit rates, way higher bit rates than Hobbit was. And Hobbit pushed the bit rate limit because they couldn't stay in a compressed bit rate of 250 megabits, which is where the DCI limit is today. And they pushed out to 400, but only not very many media blocks could support it. So they had to go through a tremendous amount of work with the cinemas to pick cinemas that could actually do this and work with them to make sure that their media blocks would be able to play this frame rate that they were using. And even in the end, they wanted to release at 500 megabit per second, and they ended up having to deliver around 400 because the product still couldn't support 500 uniformly across the board.
So what do we need?
So there's a lot, and 500 isn't enough to do all the things we're talking about now. We're going to need a gigabit or more, a couple of gigabits has been estimated. So we need a really different kind of product out there than what we have today. We're still in a defining stage of what next generation cinema is, and that's what I hope to see. Maybe we'll have a lot more to talk about next year.
So is there a study group that's organized to try and look at these issues?
This is starting now with a dialogue between ASC and DCI.
In our lifetimes, we're going to see the next generation?
Let's hope. I'm not in this for my kids.
Okay, are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go to the microphone, please, David.
Yes, excellent panel. So here's my question. You know, we're at Infocom, and we've had certainly these same discussions, CinemaCom, you know, the NBA Cinema Summit, etc. But here we are at Infocom. So my question is, with all the challenges in the pure cinema world, which we've just iterated all the different challenges, what is the possibility that we could get some momentum for, you know, for high-end laser, pure laser? In other words, all the great stuff, the HDR, the full luminance. Is it possible we could get some momentum there from this world, this Infocom world? I'll ask Michael the question after he's been at Infocom for a couple of days, but I'll ask maybe the other panelists, or even now, but I'll ask the other panelists. Is there any momentum we can get from that world, museums and theme parks and that stuff where traditionally, if you go back a few years, that was the proving ground. Also Renland Station. Big staging events. You know, that was kind of the proving ground for projection for many years. But now, of course, the obsession is with cinema in 3D for the obvious reasons. So the question is, any momentum now from that world of high-end staging for museums, theme parks, to get this technology forward?
Absolutely. And I mean, sorry, but if you look at it from the digital cinema side, we went there first because of the pure light output and the usage model for laser, also from a regulation standpoint and the concerns there. So we as manufacturers, I'm sure everybody's going to say the same thing. We're looking at it from a business projector standpoint, a corporate projector standpoint as well. I mean, we have plenty of product at the show floor, on the show floor that are laser based, different lumen outputs. So I mean, we're looking at it moving forward. You know, rental staging, any type of application.
And it's the same story for Christie. I mean, I can say that we probably didn't even start our effort in cinema. We've sold more laser projectors to theme park type applications than cinemas. So.
Having pushed this stone for over 10 years, I think We owe a great debt to all the companies that have funded LIPA for the last 5 or 6 years, and continue to fund LIPA, because unless there is rationalization in the regulatory world, you're not likely to see a proliferation of 60, 70, 100,000 lumen flamethrowers in the, outside of a controlled environment like a movie theater. So that's one of the impediments to investment, whether it's outside investment in the case of venture capital or whether it's corporate investment. You're not going to release a product line unless you know there's a clear path to selling it. So that's one of the things. On the other hand, Marco's got a huge contingent here at Infocom saying, laser, we need laser for these markets and these applications. And so for sure it's going to happen because it's just too compelling. I mean, a single projector that'll do, if you drop back, we talked about light color gamut, but if you drop back to Rec 709, you can get even more light out of a big projector. So that's, at the one end you've got the laser phosphor with lampless operation. The other end you've got these monster 60,000 plus lumen projectors that can play in a bunch of existing and new applications. But regulatory, I think, is still one thing that has to be solved.
Well, we have come to the end of our
One final
panel.
question.
I could talk more, but I'm getting hungry.
Rear projection for laser, is that,
But why don't you take this offline, because it's time to wrap up. Let's thank the panel very much. By the way, we have an hour and a half for lunch, but do go and check out the demos here. Don't forget to do the survey for the LED one. We're going to display those results this afternoon. So we're back here at 1:30 for the white color panel.